Hey everyone, let's take a look at where we left off. We have this function ready, which as we know is called right away. We have it calling essentially these two functions, test while loop as well as test if statement. And generally for testing or prototyping, you'll have like a start method and you'll run individual functions. And I love this kind of stuff. I love just kind of simple code, trying to write it as clean as possible just to have fun. So we learned a little bit about while loops. We learned a little bit about if statements and we went over ready, and we in the last game that we made we kind of covered a little bit of this coding stuff. So let's go ahead and create another function in here, and I'm going to call this test arrays, and this way we can learn a little bit about what an array is, and then we'll do another one where we're testing dictionaries. So here we have test arrays, and then I could just copy this signature here and then just paste test arrays in there because this isn't going to return any values or anything. And just to kind of get rid of this error, I'm just going to grab this print statement here, place that inside of here, and just call this test array, just so we know that we are in the test array function. All right, let's save that, and then I'm going to hit F6, and let's go ahead and run that code. And you could see here we have the test array function, right? We've got them going. So let's do a little mini lesson on what arrays are. And hopefully this won't be too confusing. An array is a type of data structure, and so they're kind of my favorite thing in the sense where, you know, it's how we can sort data like game objects, things like that, into different lists or bucket, like more than just a bucket, but like extended cabinets and stuff. All right, so the first thing I want to do is create an array of enemies, let's say, right? And the way to do that is we still use the VAI for var, and we just create a variable called enemies. And the difference again between an array and a variable, an array and like a standard variable is that an array can store multiple items of the same type. And so we do it the way we designate it as an array is you probably guessed it. You write the word array and then you have some brackets. And then inside of that, you type out whatever the value, like whatever the data type or what kind of data that array can hold. So I'm just going with a string because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video and I'm just going to type in a bunch of different types of string like words that represent like things in quotes. And the way you do it is you do something like this where inside of here you have a quote and you call this, like, for example, scout drone. And then whatever the next element is, you put a comma and then you copy it. Like you can copy this and then this is, let me zoom in a little bit so you could see that. And then you could paste that in there and this could be, you know, asteroids. But I'm going to pause the video and just type out a few so you could see it. All right, so here is my array of enemies, and it's currently holding scout drone, asteroid, cruiser, boss mothership. Now, each one of these, the way that I can access them is they have an index or a number, right? So this one is at index 0, this one is at 1, this one is at 2, and this is at 3. So if I wanted to access this, I just write print, for example, and then I have my parentheses here, and then I grab the name of this array, and then I just put the open and close brackets there, and then the number of the element I want to access. So remember I told you these are like, this is a filing cabinet, right, or drawers, and you could think of this as, here, I'll space it out like this. Like this is drawer 1 at the top, this is drawer 2, this is drawer 3, and so on. But the way that you'll get an error if you don't at least tell it, like you have to leave this on the same line, but you could separate these. So here's my first drawer, my 0 drawer, just called 0, and this is my first, second, and third. So I'm gonna hit F6 to run my code. Make sure that you open the logic playground here scene. And if I press play, or not play, but if I hit this play, which is run the current scene, I'm gonna hit F6 on this. We should get our shield charging, and then we should get scout drone, and that should be right, because our first element is scout drone, and then this is 1. Let's try 1, and let's hit F6, and we should have asteroid because that is the second element at index 1 of our array. We could also create a variable here. Let's just put up top, and we're going to call this index, and this is pretty customary. and we'll make this of type int, and we'll just make that equal to 1. And if I copy this, and or copy the word index, and I paste that inside of here, and I hit F6, you'll notice that because it says asteroid here, right? And because this index is equal to 1, which is the element in this array, we can actually use this variable to run through this. Now, this is important because when we go to look at our data file, which is this guy right here, you'll notice that we do a lot of searching and with while loops and stuff, and you'll see a lot of this stuff going on where we're like either going to the end of an array or the end of a file, or we're indexing by let's see, oh, this is data loader here. Sorry, let's go to our data loader script. A row, or we're using an index here. See how it says row 1, row 0, as we're searching through things, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and look at we'll jump to Logic Playground here, and let's select that script. Here's our data loader. Here's our weapon CSV file. Okay, so here's our Logic Playground script. So here we are back in our test array here, and let us go through and make a loop and print out essentially all of these different elements, right? So that way we can practice a little bit more with loops. Use our while loop here. And let's see, because we have this is sort of operating like an index, so we've seen this code before. So let's redo this, right? So let's go with here. Let's go down a little bit. Let's type while, and then let's give it a condition, right? So while index is less than, and what do we have here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4 elements in our array, right? So the way that it's going to loop through, while index is less than 4, we want to do something, right? And we probably, let's see, we want to print the enemies at an index. Well, how do we increment our index? Let's start off at 0 here. And what we can do is, if we just run it now, it's going to run forever, and it's going to bog down our Godot. So what we want to do is we want to increment our index. So we can say index plus plus. Now this is the same. Oh, I don't. Maybe we can't do that. Let's see, I guess they don't have that here. Let's do index plus equals 1. So this is shorthand for this. Index equals index plus 1. This is the same thing. This is like a shorthand way of writing this right here. So I'm going to comment this out so you can see this. And I think what we'll do is we'll also print the index. And what we'll write is current index is space, and then I think we have to change the data type for that to a string, otherwise we'll get an error later. And we have to make sure that we have a plus sign in here because we're adding this string value, which is the index, to here. So we're converting this number into a string because this is all printing out a string. So I'm going to go ahead and hit F6 here, and let's run through this code. All right, it looks like we are let's see, array size 4. That has 4 elements. That's right. I guess we should use size, or so here's test array. It's calling it. Let's see. Print enemies at index, and then we are incrementing index here by 1. Oh, you know what? We do have to do, because you're starting at 1, so this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try is less than 3 maybe? Let's try that. There we go. Okay. So I did a little bit of bad math there. So we have, yeah, because it's 0, 1, 2, 3. So, okay, so while index is less than 3, right? So what is index here? Index is 0. So this current index is 1, right? And what's the first element there? 0. Our first element is asteroid. So how do we get scout drone here? Let's see. We have index here equal to 0. We have to increment this. Sorry, this is where our error is. We increment this at the end. So let's tab this in. There we go. And let's try that 4 again. Because I think by adding that 1 there. So I make simple mistakes. I'm going to leave that in there. I also record a lot of these at like 3 o'clock in the morning, so you have to forgive me. So let's, excuses, right? You should never make mistakes. There we go. So here we go. Scout drone is 0. And let's run through this. So current index is 0. And then we're going to go down to print enemies is at 0. Where's that at? Print enemy. Well, which enemy is at 0? Well, the scout drone. And then we just add 1 to that, and then we just keep looping through it. So this is essentially how we can loop through an array while index is less than 4. All right, the last thing I want to go through in this video is something called a dictionary. So above here, I'm going to just place my dictionary. All right, so what I kind of have here is a dictionary within a dictionary. So what you do is you essentially give your dictionary a name, right? Like a array. And the variable here is called weapon inventory, and we give it the data type dictionary. So you could think of a dictionary as like, say you have a book, and you have a key, and the key is the number of the page in your book. And then as you turn to page 5, there's a bunch of data or information on that page, pictures or whatever you want, or text. And that's what this is. So for example, the key here is name, and the data is pulse laser. So this is really just the data for my first weapon. And then the damage, how much it does, fire rate, damage per second. And then it's wrapped within these curly braces. So let's go ahead and create a function above this one. And normally the way that I set these up is normally like if this is at the bottom here for arrays, I would normally put that array function at the bottom so that my code just has a nice sequence to it. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. Okay, so let's go to functions here, and I'll just call this test dictionary. And let's do this again, and then do test dictionary. So I just want to show you how to loop through, and we'll do a different loop this time. We'll do a for loop. And the reason why I'm doing all of this is, like I said, when we get into the data loader script next, I want you to be able to somewhat understand it and be able to script it out. And so this is kind of a code-heavy lesson this week. And but I promise you, the actual gameplay programming is even much easier than this. You'll see, and it's the fun of it. So if this all feels like word salad, I promise you it gets easier with time. You just got to keep coding. But hopefully you're getting it, and you're getting a lot of these concepts. All right, so this looks like a mouthful of code here. So let's go ahead and let's see. We have our print statement here. Let's kind of break this up on another line so we could zoom in. So this is our function test dictionary, okay? And let's go line by line here. So we print test dictionary here. And actually, let's just hit F6 so you can see this in action. All right, so am I calling test dictionary? I am not calling test dictionary. That's probably my problem. All right, so after our array at the bottom, we're calling test dictionary. Let's hit F6 again, and then I will explain the code to you. All right, so here's test dictionary, and then we got all these values. So how are we getting this? Well, we print test dictionary so we can let the people know what function we're in. So this is a for loop. So it says for weapon ID. Where's this weapon ID coming from? Well, this is like creating a variable that only is being used within this for loop. So we create this variable called weapon ID, and it's going to store something. And it's going to store the first thing inside of weapon inventory, which is here. And it automatically takes on the data type of whatever this is. So this is a dictionary, so this weapon ID is a dictionary. So the very next line, we create a variable. I'll just type some of this out. A variable called stats. And that's also of type dictionary. So this is a dictionary. It has the stats has a dictionary data type. And what is this thing storing? Well, it's storing the first element in weapon ID, right? Which is this. It's storing all of this inside of here. So stats is holding the first element in weapon ID. Do I want to add a second weapon? Sure, let's do it. So I copy this and I put a comma and I paste this, and now we have a second element, and we can call this weapon, I don't know, burger. And it is, the name of it is hamburger. We'll call it hamburgers. And the damage is 100. It doesn't matter. And then same fire rate, same damage per second, which doesn't make sense since damage is 100, but just bear with me. So this is storing. So now we have our first element. And then what we're going to print is, what is the ID? Well, the weapon ID, right, is weapon laser, which is this one. What is the name? Well, we're grabbing the name here. And then it's like, well, we're not grabbing it. This is just printing the word name here. And then it's like, well, what's the name? We do stats, and then we call that key. What is the key? Name. And it's pulse laser. We call damage, we call fire rate. But we're not and notice that it grabs this information and it puts it in there. And we're just using this string here to print out that information. So let's run it again now that we have two elements. And we have weapon burger, hamburgers, and then DPS 50. So I hopefully that was somewhat you can understand. Oh, then here we have decision inside of a loop. So if stats DPS is greater than or equal to 80, we can print high tier weapon, DPS weapon. If that's there, we don't really have one because all of our DPS are 50. But say this guy is 150. All right, let's save that and then let's run that. So I'm gonna hit F6, and then we get high tier weapon. So I hope this lesson was helpful. I hope you understand dictionaries to an extent. We created a bunch of functions, so hopefully that's a little bit easier. If you walk away and you understand how functions work, you understand how ready works, where it's called right away, and then how to just toy with these, and you kind of enjoyed this a little bit, then I feel like this was successful. All right, and I hopefully didn't scare you too much away from coding. Anyway, thanks. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'll see you in the next one, where we cover this guy right here. This one is going to be kind of a bit of a mouthful, but I again, if you don't fully understand it, it's okay as long as you understand parts of it. You'll get it, I promise.